My name is Aubrey, I am 26 years old and I live in the suburbs with my parents. I stood on the front porch of my grandparents' house. My arms were shaking. I was holding 3 heavy boxes filled with my handmade holiday ornaments. Behind me, the yellow taxi was just driving away down the street. I took a deep breath to steady myself and rang the doorbell. My grandpa opened the door. He looked happy to see me, but then his smile faded. He looked past me at the empty driveway. He looked confused. "Buddy," he said, using his old nickname for me. "Why did you come by taxi? What happened to the BMW we gave you?" My stomach dropped. I felt heat rise to my face. I opened my mouth to explain, but I never got the chance. My mother walked into the hallway behind him. Her voice was cold, sharp, and final. "That car belongs to Madeline now," she said. The air left the room. It was suddenly very quiet. I stood there, holding my heavy boxes, feeling small and foolish. I looked at my grandpa. He didn't look at my mother. He went deadly still. His eyes were locked on me, and I saw something change in his face. He finally realized what was actually happening in our house. What he did next flipped our entire family hierarchy upside down. But before I tell you how everything flipped and subscribe, drop a comment, where are you watching from? My name is Aubrey, I am 26 years old. To understand why my grandfather's reaction at the door mattered so much, you have to understand who I was in my family. Or maybe, you have to understand who I wasn't. I wasn't the main character. I wasn't the star. I was the background noise. I was the person who made sure the stage was clean so the star could shine. For as long as I can remember, I was the fixer. I was the quiet workhorse of the family. My role was simple. Pay the bills, solve the emergencies, stay calm, and avoid conflict like it was poison. I learned very early on that the best way to survive in my house was to be useful but invisible. My sister Madeline was different. Madeline was 22, 4 years younger than me, and she was the sun our family orbited around. She was charismatic, loud, and beautiful. She was trying to be an influencer on social media. To my mother, Madeline was the one who represented the family. She was the success story, even though she didn't actually make any money. I lived a completely different life inside the same house. My day usually started at 6 a.m. I would wake up before everyone else to make sure the house was running. I started the coffee. I checked the mail. I made sure the internet bill was paid so Madeline wouldn't scream about the Wi-Fi being down. I was the one who knew the passwords to everything. I was the one who knew when the car insurance was due. I was the one who called the plumber when the sink clogged because Madeline poured grease down the drain. Nobody ever said thank you for these things. They just expected them. If the Wi-Fi worked, nobody noticed me. If the Wi-Fi stopped, it was my fault. I remember one Tuesday morning clearly. It was a perfect example of our dynamic. I was in the kitchen, on my knees, wiping up a sticky puddle of juice that someone had spilled and left there the night before. My mother walked in. She didn't look at me. She looked at her phone. "Aubrey," she said, not looking up. "Did you call the electric company? The bill seems high this month." "I called them yesterday," I said, scrubbing the floor. "It's high because Madeline left the AC on with the windows open for 3 days. My mother waved her hand, dismissing my words. "Don't be petty, Aubrey. She was probably just focused on her content. She works very hard." I stopped scrubbing. I looked at my hands. They were red and chapped. "I work hard too, Mom." "Of course you do," she said, pouring herself coffee. But her tone said the opposite. "But you know Madeline is building a brand. It's different." It was always different for Madeline. My work was different. I ran a small business making hand-painted holiday ornaments. It wasn't a hobby. It was my job. I had an online shop, and during the holiday season, I sold hundreds of them. I made enough money to pay for my own things, cover my share of the groceries, and even help with the house bills. But I wasn't allowed to work in the house. My mother said my paints and boxes were messy. She said they cluttered up the aesthetic of the living room. So I worked in the garage. The garage was not insulated. In the winter, it was freezing. I had a small space heater that barely worked. I would sit there for hours, wrapped in 3 sweaters, painting delicate designs on glass bulbs. My fingers would get so cold they would go numb, and I would have to sit on my hands to warm them up so I could hold the brush again. I never complained, I just did the work. I put on my headphones, listened to audiobooks, and painted. It was the only time I felt peaceful. It was the only time I felt like I owned my own life. One afternoon, I came inside from the garage to get a glass of water. My legs were stiff from sitting in the cold for 4 hours. I walked into the living room and stopped. The living room was a mess, but it was a creative mess. Madeline had set up a ring light and a tripod. There were clothes everywhere, dresses, scarves, hats. She was filming a get ready with me video for her followers. Okay guys, she was saying to her phone, doing a little twirl. So today is just a chill day at the family estate. Family estate. It was a regular 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, but Madeline always embellished. My mother was sitting on the couch, watching her with a proud smile. She was holding a reflector to help with the lighting. That was beautiful, honey, my mother said. Do it one more time, but smile bigger. I tried to walk past them to the kitchen quietly, but I stepped on a silk scarf that was on the floor. Aubrey, Madeline yelled. She stopped recording and glared at me. You're ruining the shot, you're in the background. I'm just getting water, I said quietly. Can't you wait? Madeline groaned. The lighting is perfect right now, you're so inconsiderate. My mother turned to me, her face was stern. Aubrey, please, your sister is working, go back to the garage until she's done. I looked at them. I live here too. I just want water. Just go, Mom said, shooing me away. Don't be difficult. I turned around and went back to the cold garage. I didn't get my water. I sat down at my work table and stared at a half-painted snowman. I felt a lump in my throat, but I didn't cry. I had learned a long time ago that crying didn't change anything. It just made my mother call me dramatic. This was my life. My talents were treated as cute little hobbies. Madeline's hobbies were treated as her destiny. When I sold 50 ornaments to a boutique in the city, my dad said, "That's nice, honey, good for pocket money." When Madeline got 100 likes on a photo of her latte, my mom said, "She's really going places. She's going to be famous." It wasn't just the praise, it was the respect. They respected her time. They respected her space. They respected her voice. They treated me like a utility, like the refrigerator or the washing machine. You only notice the washing machine when it breaks. As long as I was working, paying bills, and staying quiet, they ignored me. I told myself it was okay. I told myself that I was independent. I was earning my own money. I was saving up. I had a plan to move out eventually, maybe get a small studio apartment. But it's hard to leave when you are conditioned to be the caretaker. I felt guilty every time I thought about leaving. Who would pay the internet bill? Who would remember Mom's dentist appointment? Who would clean up Madeline's messes? They had trained me well. They had trained me to believe that my value came from what I could do for them, not from who I was. But the hardest part wasn't the work, it was the loneliness. We would have family dinners on Sundays. Roast chicken, potatoes, vegetables. I usually cooked the meal. I would set the table. We would all sit down. For the next hour, the conversation would be entirely about Madeline. "Madeline, tell us about that brand that emailed you," Dad would say. "Oh, it's this skincare line," Madeline would say, talking with her mouth full. "They want to send me free samples, it's huge." "That's incredible," Mom would beam. "Free samples, see, I told you she was a natural." I would eat silently. I wanted to tell them about my week. I wanted to tell them that I had designed a new line of vintage-style bulbs that were selling out. I wanted to tell them that my hands hurt from the cold garage. Once, I tried. "I got a custom order today," I said during a pause in the conversation. "A woman wants 20 personalized ornaments for her whole family." There was a beat of silence. "That's a lot of painting," Dad said, reaching for the salt. "Make sure you don't get paint on the driveway this time," Mom added. "I saw a speck of red near the garage door last week." That was it. That was the whole conversation about my success. Then Madeline cleared her throat. "Anyway," she said loudly, "I need a new outfit for this event next week. Mom, can we go shopping tomorrow?" "Of course, sweetie," Mom said, her eyes lighting up again. "We need to make sure you look perfect." I looked down at my plate. I felt like I was invisible. I felt like I could disappear right there at the table, and they wouldn't notice until they needed someone to clear the dishes. This dynamic was normal to us. It was the air we breathed. Aubrey gives, Madeline takes. Aubrey works, Madeline shines. Aubrey is the sturdy, boring sedan. Madeline is the flashy sports car. It's funny I use that comparison. Because cars were the beginning of the end. I didn't care about luxury. I didn't care about being famous. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted someone to look at me and say, "You are doing a good job." I wanted someone to acknowledge that I existed. That's why the BMW meant so much to me. It wasn't about the car itself. I mean, it was a nice car, but that wasn't the point. The point was that my grandfather gave it to me. My grandparents lived about 40 minutes away. They were the only people who seemed to see me clearly. When I visited them, Grandpa would ask me about my business. Grandma would ask if I was eating enough. They didn't treat me like a servant. They treated me like a granddaughter. A few months ago, my old car died. It was a rusty clunker I had bought with my own money when I was 18. The engine finally gave up. I was stressed. I needed a car to deliver my ornaments to the post office and to drive to the craft markets where I sold my work on weekends. Without a car, my business was dead. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, looking at used car ads, trying to figure out what I could afford. Madeline walked in, grabbed an apple, and looked over my shoulder. "Just ask Dad to buy you one," she said. "Dad is paying for your acting classes," I said. "He said he doesn't have extra cash right now." "Bummer," she said and walked away. 2 days later, my grandfather called me. "Aubrey," he said, "come over on Saturday. I have something for you." I took an Uber to their house. When I got there, Grandpa was standing in the driveway. Next to him was a car. It wasn't a brand new car, but it was beautiful. It was a dark blue BMW sedan. It was about 5 years old, but it was in perfect condition. The paint shined in the sun. The leather seats looked comfortable. "Grandpa," I asked. "I'm getting too old to drive this one," he said, patting the hood. "I bought a smaller car for me and Grandma. This one is safe, it's reliable, and it has a huge trunk for all your boxes." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Grandpa, I can't take this. This is too much." "You can and you will," he said firmly. "You work harder than anyone I know, Aubrey. You deserve a safe way to get to your markets. You deserve something nice." He handed me the keys. They felt heavy and cool in my hand. "It's yours," he said. "Not the family's, yours." I hugged him so hard I thought I might hurt him. For the first time in years, I felt like I had something of my own. I felt protected. I drove home feeling like a different person. The car was smooth and quiet. The heater worked instantly. I felt like a professional. I felt like an adult. When I pulled into the driveway at home, my mother came out onto the porch. Madeline followed her. I got out of the car, beaming. "Look what Grandpa gave me." My mother walked around the car slowly. She ran her hand along the door. She didn't look happy for me. She looked calculating. "It's a BMW," she said. "Yeah," I said. "Grandpa said he wanted me to be safe driving to the markets." Madeline let out a low whistle. "Nice ride, way better than your old junk." "It's mine," I said, clutching the keys. I wanted to make that clear immediately. "Well," my mother said, looking at me with a tight smile, "it's a very generous gift for the family." "For me," I corrected her. "He gave it to me." My mother's eyes flashed. "Aubrey, don't be selfish. We are a family. What's yours is ours. That's how we work." I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. I knew that tone. That was the tone she used before she took something away. "But the title is in my name," I said, trying to stand my ground. "Grandpa signed it over to me." "Technically," Mom said. She turned and walked back into the house. "Just make sure you don't scratch it. We need to keep the value up." I stood in the driveway, looking at the beautiful blue car. The happiness I had felt 10 minutes ago was starting to fade. I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was my car. I had the keys. They couldn't take it, but I was wrong. They didn't take it all at once. They took it slowly, like water eroding a stone. It started the very next week. I was in the garage painting. Madeline burst in. She was wearing a short dress and high heels. "Aubrey, I need the keys," she said. "What? Why?" I asked, not looking up from my work. "I have an audition in the city," she said. "My car is low on gas and I don't have cash. Plus, the BMW looks better. It fits my brand." "Madeline, no," I said. "I need to go to the post office in an hour." "Please," she whined. "It's a huge opportunity. If I pull up in that car, they'll take me seriously." "Do you want me to fail?" "I didn't say that," I said. "Mom," Madeline screamed. "Aubrey is trying to sabotage my audition." My mother appeared at the door instantly. "Aubrey, give her the keys." "But I need to ship these orders," I argued. "You can ship them later," Mom said. "This is your sister's career. Don't be jealous. Give her the keys." I looked at them, 2 against 1, as always. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the keys. I slammed them on the table. "Fine," I said. "Be careful." Madeline snatched them up. "Thanks, you're the best." She didn't mean it. She came back 4 hours later. The tank was empty. There was a coffee stain on the passenger seat. She didn't apologize. She just tossed the keys on the counter and went to her room. That was the beginning. Over the next month, borrowing the car became a habit. Then it became an expectation. Madeline needed it for dates because it was impressive. Madeline needed it for shopping because the trunk was big. Madeline needed it because she just liked it better. My mother supported her every time. "It's a family car, Aubrey. Stop hoarding it." I found myself taking the bus to the post office because Madeline was out with my car. I found myself canceling market days because Madeline had booked the car for a weekend trip with her friends. My possession of the car was slipping away. I was paying the insurance. I was paying for the oil changes, but I was driving it less and less. I was the owner on paper, but in reality, I was just the fleet manager for Madeline. I tried to fight back. I tried to hide the keys, but the guilt tripping was relentless. They called me selfish. They called me a bad sister. They told me I didn't support the family. I was tired. I was so tired of fighting. So I let it happen. I retreated further into the garage. I painted more ornaments. I tried to ignore the sound of my car engine starting up and driving away without me. I thought, at least I still have my business. At least I still have my money. I didn't know that they were coming for that too. The car was just the physical theft. The real damage was happening in my bank account, and I was too busy trying to keep the peace to notice the numbers dropping. The theft of my car didn't happen all at once. It was a slow creep, like a shadow getting longer in the afternoon. At first, Madeline asked to borrow the BMW. Then, she stopped asking. She would just take the keys from the hook by the door. If I said, "I need the car today," she would roll her eyes and say, "Chill, I'll be back in 20 minutes. She wouldn't come back for 5 hours. Then came the physical changes. One morning, I went out to the driveway to load my boxes for a craft fair. I froze. There was a bright pink steering wheel cover on my leather steering wheel. There was a sticker on the back bumper that said Future Star. The preset radio stations had been changed. My classical music was gone, replaced by loud pop stations. I ripped the pink cover off the wheel. I marched inside. "Madeline," I said, holding up the fuzzy pink circle. "Don't put stuff on my car." She looked up from her cereal. "It's cute. It gives the car personality. It was so boring before." "It's not your car," I said. "It's mine." My mother turned from the sink. "Aubrey, stop being so possessive. It's just a steering wheel cover. Madeline is just trying to make the car feel welcoming for her friends." "Her friends?" I asked. "Why does it matter what her friends think of my car?" "Because she drives them around," Mom said simply. "It's part of her image. You don't have an image, Aubrey. You just have boxes." That was the moment I realized the truth. In their minds, the car was wasted on me. A nice car was for being seen. I wasn't someone who was seen. Therefore, I didn't need the car. The final blow came 2 weeks before Christmas. This was my busiest season. I had 3 major markets scheduled. I needed the car every single day to move inventory. I woke up on a Saturday morning at 5 a.m. I drank my coffee, put on my coat, and went to the key hook. The keys were gone. I checked the kitchen counter. I checked the living room. Nothing. I ran outside. The driveway was empty. The BMW was gone. Panic rose in my chest. I ran back inside and pounded on Madeline's bedroom door. "Madeline, where is the car?" There was a groan from inside. "Go away. I have a market in 2 hours. I need the car." "I don't have it," she mumbled through the door. "I left it at Tyler's house last night. We took an Uber home because we had drinks." I felt like I had been punched. "Tyler's house, that's 30 minutes away. How am I supposed to get my boxes to the market?" "Take a taxi," she said. "Stop yelling, I have a headache." I turned to my parents' room. I woke up my mother. "Mom, she left my car at a stranger's house. I can't get to work." My mother sat up looking annoyed. "Aubrey, it's 5:30 in the morning. Lower your voice." "Did you hear me? She abandoned my car." "She was being responsible," Mom said, yawning. "She didn't drink and drive. You should be proud of her for making a safe choice." "But I can't work." "Then don't work today," Mom said, lying back down. "Stay home. Maybe you can clean the garage. It's a mess out there." I stood in the hallway, trembling with rage. They didn't care. They literally did not care if I lost money, if I lost customers, or if I lost my mind. I called a taxi. It cost me $50 to get to the market. I had to carry 4 heavy boxes by myself because the driver wouldn't help. I arrived late. I lost my good spot. When I got home that night, the BMW was back in the driveway, but the keys weren't on the hook. Madeline kept them in her purse now. From that day on, I didn't have a car. I had a theoretical car. I paid the insurance on it. I paid for the new tires when Madeline hit a curb. But I walked to the bus stop, and Madeline drove my BMW to get iced coffee. If the car was the visible theft, the money was the invisible one. It was death by 1,000 favors. I had a business bank account. It was linked to a debit card that I used for supplies, paint, glass, packing materials. My parents knew I had this account. They knew I was good with money. One day, my mother came to me in the garage. She looked stressed. "Aubrey, honey," she said. Her voice was sweet. That was always a bad sign. "I'm trying to order Madeline's headshots online, but their system isn't taking my card. I think the bank flagged it for fraud because I bought that vacuum cleaner yesterday." Can I just use your card? I'll pay you back in cash tomorrow. I hesitated. It's my business card, Mom. I need to keep the records clean for taxes. It's $50, she said, her eyes narrowing. Don't be difficult. Do you want your sister to miss the deadline? I sighed. Fine, just 50. I gave her the number. She ordered the headshots. She never paid me back the $50. When I asked, she said, "Oh, I bought groceries for the house yesterday, so let's just call it even." That was the breach in the dam. Once they knew I had money, they felt entitled to it. It started small. Madeline needed supplies for her career. Aubrey, can you grab me some makeup wipes? I'm out. Aubrey, can you pay the pizza guy? I don't have cash. Aubrey, put gas in the car. You're the one who wants it to run, right? Then it got digital. I started seeing charges on my account that I didn't make. Sephora. $142.50 Starbucks. $18 Uber Eats. $45 I confronted Madeline. Did you use my card number for your Uber Eats app? She looked at her phone, unbothered. Oh yeah. Mom said it was okay. I didn't have any money on mine. You can't just take my money, Madeline. It's food, Aubrey. You're seriously going to deny me food? That's abusive. My mother backed her up. She has to eat, Aubrey. You have savings. Stop being so stingy. We are a family. We help each other. But you never help me, I yelled. We gave you a roof over your head for 26 years, my father said, looking up from his newspaper. He rarely got involved, but when he did, it was always to shut me down. We paid for your food, your clothes, your school. You owe this family more than a few Uber Eats charges. The guilt was a heavy blanket. They wrapped me in it until I couldn't move. I owe them, I thought. Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe I should share, so I worked harder. I started painting until 2 a.m. My eyes burned, my back ached. I took on custom orders that were difficult and time-consuming just to make extra cash. I needed to refill the account faster than they were draining it. It was a losing battle. One month, a charge appeared for social media consulting. It was $500. I marched into the living room. Who spent $500? That was me, Madeline said. She was painting her toenails on the coffee table. I hired a bot service to boost my followers. It's an investment. When I get a sponsorship, I'll pay you back double. You stole $500 from me. Borrowed, Mom shouted from the kitchen. Borrowed, Aubrey. Have some faith in your sister. I went back to the garage. I looked at my bank balance. It was hovering near zero. I had a bill due for a bulk order of glass ornaments coming in 3 days. If that payment bounced, my supplier would cut me off. I didn't buy lunch that week. I didn't turn on the heater in the garage to save electricity. I painted with gloves on, my breath visible in the cold air, trying to fix a hole in a boat that my family kept drilling into. The crash happened on a Tuesday. I was at the post office trying to ship 6 boxes to customers in Ohio. The line was long. When I finally got to the counter, the clerk weighed the boxes. That will be $82.40, he said. I swiped my card. Beep, declined. I felt my face get hot. Can you try it again? I know there's money in there. He swiped it again. Beep, declined. Insufficient funds, he said loud enough for the people behind me to hear. I checked my banking app on my phone. My hands were shaking. Balance, minus $35. Overdraft fee, $35. I scrolled down to see what had happened. Delta Airlines, $450 hotel booking, $300. I walked out of the post office carrying my heavy boxes. I sat on the curb outside and cried. I didn't cry because I was sad. I cried because I was humiliated. I cried because I was broke. I walked home. It took me 40 minutes carrying the boxes. When I walked in the door, Madeline was packing a suitcase. Hey, she said. I'm going to a creator convention in Miami for the weekend. It's going to be epic. I dropped the boxes on the floor. The glass rattled. You used my card. Mom said it was okay, she said, defensive immediately. It's a networking event. It's for my career. I couldn't ship my orders, I said. My voice was very quiet. My card was declined at the post office. I am overdrawn. Well, transfer some money from savings, she said, zipping up her bag. Don't be dramatic. I don't have any savings left, Madeline. You spent it all. She paused. For a second, she looked guilty, then she shrugged. You can make more, you're good at painting. She walked past me, dragging her suitcase. I have to go, the Uber is here. She left. I stood in the hallway. The house was quiet. My mother was at the gym. My dad was at work. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was a quiet, final click, like a lock turning. I went to the garage. I didn't paint. I opened my laptop. I opened a new spreadsheet. I titled it, The Truth. I logged into my bank account. I went back 3 years. I went line by line, every Uber, every Sephora charge. Every gas station fill up when I was home. The consulting fees, the clothes, the borrowed cash that never returned, the car insurance for the BMW I never drove, the repairs for the dents I didn't make. I sat there for 6 hours. The sun went down, the garage got freezing cold, I didn't feel it. I was fueled by a cold, hard rage. I typed in every single number, I categorized them, I added dates. I added notes on what the excuse was. May 12. $60, pizza for Madeline's friends, June 4. $200, Madeline's festival ticket, August 1. $150, car detailing because Madeline spilled smoothie, my eyes were dry. My fingers flew across the keys. Finally, I hit the sum button at the bottom of the column. The number appeared in bold black text. $8,742.19. I stared at the number. $8,000. That was a down payment on an apartment. That was a new kiln for my glass. That was a vacation I never took. That was my freedom. They hadn't just borrowed money. They had stolen my future. They had eaten my life, bite by bite, and called it love. I printed the spreadsheet, the printer word in the quiet garage. It took 10 pages. I stapled the pages together. They felt heavy in my hand, heavier than the ornaments. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I wasn't the doormat. I looked at the stack of papers. This was my proof. This was my weapon. I stood up. My legs were stiff, but my mind was clear. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't do it here. If I showed this to Mom, she would tear it up. If I showed it to Dad, he would give me a lecture about family loyalty. I needed a judge. I needed someone who understood the value of $1 and the value of a promise. I grabbed my coat. I grabbed the stack of papers. I walked out of the house. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I walked to the corner and called a taxi. "Where to?" the driver asked. "My grandfather's house," I said. I sat in the back seat, clutching the papers. The ride cost money I didn't have. I put it on a credit card I kept for absolute emergencies. This was an emergency. This was a rescue mission. And I was the one who needed saving. The taxi ride to my grandparents' house felt like it took forever. I sat in the back seat, clutching the folder of spreadsheets to my chest. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I felt like a tattletale. I felt like a traitor. But mostly, I felt desperate. When I arrived, the house was quiet. My grandma was out in the garden, but my grandpa was in his study reading a book. He looked up when I walked in. He saw my face, red eyes, pale skin, shaking hands, and he put his book down immediately. "Aubrey," he asked, "what's wrong? Is everyone okay?" "Physically, yes," I said, my voice cracked. "But I'm not okay, Grandpa. I'm really not okay." I walked over to his desk and placed the stack of papers in front of him. "What is this?" he asked. "It's the truth," I said. "It's where all my money went. It's why I can't pay my rent. It's why I don't have a car." He put on his reading glasses. He looked at me for a second, seeing the desperation in my eyes, and then he looked down at the first page. The room was silent. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the rustle of paper as he turned the pages. He read slowly. He didn't skim. He read every single line. Madeline Huber, $45. Madeline Sephora, $142. Mom Groceries, $200. He read for 20 minutes. I sat in the chair across from him, wringing my hands. I was terrified he would say what my parents always said. I was terrified he would say, "Aubrey, it's just money. You're the older sister, you should share." Finally, he turned the last page. He looked at the grand total. $8,742.19. He took off his glasses and set them on the desk. He rubbed his eyes. He looked older suddenly. He looked sad. "They told me you were doing well," he said softly. "Your mother told me you were making money hand over fist. She said you were flush with cash." "I was making money," I said, "but they spent it faster than I could make it." "And the car?" he asked. "The BMW. Madeline drives it," I said. "She took the keys months ago. Mom says it's better for the family image if Madeline drives it. I take the bus or walk." Grandpa's jaw tightened. A muscle in his cheek twitched. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the garden for a long time. "I gave that car to you," he said, his voice low. "I put the title in your name. I handed the keys to your hand." "I know," I whispered. "I tried to keep it, but they make me feel crazy. They make me feel like I'm selfish if I keep anything for myself. They say family shares everything." Grandpa turned around. His eyes were fierce. I had never seen him look this angry. It wasn't a loud, explosive anger. It was a cold, hard, protective anger. "Aubrey," he said firmly, "listen to me. Sharing is when you offer someone a slice of your cake because you want to, Theft is when someone takes the whole cake while you are sleeping and then blames you for being hungry. He walked back to the desk and tapped the spreadsheet. This isn't sharing, this isn't family help. This is financial abuse. They are bleeding you dry to feed Madeline's ego. Hearing him say it out loud was like a physical weight being lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish, I was being robbed. What do? I asked. If I cut them off, they'll hate me. Mom will scream, Dad will lecture me. Let them scream, Grandpa said. Screaming doesn't pay bills. You need a plan. He sat down and pulled a notepad toward him. We are going to fix this, right now. For the next 2 hours, Grandpa became my general. He didn't treat me like a child, he treated me like a partner. Step 1, he said, the bank. I called the bank on speakerphone. With Grandpa sitting right there nodding encouragement, I reported my debit card lost. I requested a new one with a new number. I asked them to remove all authorized users. Step 2, he said, security. We went through every single online account I had. Amazon, Uber, PayPal, Netflix. I changed every password. I logged out of all devices. I turned on two-factor authentication so the code would come to my phone, not the family iPad. Step 3, he said, the car. I can't get it back, I said. Madeline has the keys in her purse. She's in Miami. She'll be back, Grandpa said. And when she gets back, she's going to have a rude awakening. You have the title. It's in my room at home. Get it, he said. Keep it safe. And do you have the spare key? No, Mom took it for safekeeping. Grandpa shook his head. We will deal with the car, but first we deal with the money. By the time we finished, it was dark outside. I felt exhausted, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel helpless. I felt like I had a wall behind me. I wasn't standing alone against the wind anymore. You're staying here for dinner, Grandpa said. And then I'm paying for your taxi home. Do not tell them where you were. Do not tell them what you did. Let them find out when the card declines. He walked me to the door. He put his hands on my shoulders. Aubrey, he said, you are a good daughter. You are a good sister, but you cannot set yourself on fire to keep them warm. It ends today. It ends today, I repeated. I believed him. I went home that night and acted like nothing had happened. I went straight to my room. I didn't paint. I didn't clean the kitchen. I just lay on my bed and waited. The first explosion happened the next morning at 10 a.m. I was in the garage, packing up the few ornaments I had left. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Madeline. Madeline, WTF. My Uber was just declined. I'm stuck at the hotel. Put money on the card now. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the keypad. Usually I would panic. I would transfer funds. I would apologize. Instead, I typed 2 words, Aubrey, no. I hit send. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. Then the text started flooding in. Mom, Aubrey. Answer the phone. Your sister is stranded in Miami. Mom, what did you do to the bank account? Mom, she needs to get to the airport. Stop playing games. I put the phone on silent. I kept working. When my mother came home from the gym an hour later, she stormed into the garage. She looked furious. What is wrong with you? She screamed. Madeline is crying. She's embarrassed. Her card was declined in front of her friends. I turned around slowly. I held a glass ornament in my hand. I felt calm. It's not her card, Mom, I said. It's my card, and it was declined because there is no money left. She spent it all. Transfer it from your savings, Mom yelled. She needs to get home. No, I said. The word hung in the air. My mother looked shocked. I never said no. What did you say? I said no. I closed the account. I changed the passwords. The free ride is over. She is your sister, Mom shouted. How is she supposed to get home? She can use the money she made from her sponsorships, I said. Or you can send her money, but I'm done. I'm not paying for her life anymore. My mother stared at me with pure hatred. You are being cruel. You are jealous and bitter and cruel. Maybe, I said, but I'm also broke. So it doesn't matter. I walked past her, out of the garage and into the house. I went to the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I sent a message to the family group chat. I wanted it in writing. Aubrey. Effective immediately. I am no longer paying for any family expenses. My business accounts are locked. Also, I need the BMW back. Madeline has until Friday at 5 p.m. to return the keys and the car to the driveway. If it is not here, I will report it stolen. The house erupted. My dad came home early from work. He tried the disappointed father routine. Aubrey, he said, sitting me down. Threatening your sister with the police, that's extreme. That's not how we treat family. Stealing $8,000 isn't how we treat family either, I said, looking him in the eye. It wasn't stealing, he said. It was miscommunication. Friday, 5 p.m., I said. The next 2 days were a war zone. My mother slammed doors. She refused to cook for me. She told me I wasn't welcome to eat their food if I wasn't going to contribute. So I bought a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter and kept them in my room. Friday came. I sat on the front porch at 4:30 p.m. I waited. At 4:55 p.m., the BMW roared into the driveway. It was dirty. There was mud on the tires. Madeline got out. She slammed the door so hard the car shook. She looked furious. She was wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She marched up the steps. "Here," she screamed. She threw the keys at my face. They hit my cheek and fell to the concrete. It stung, but I didn't flinch. "You're such a loser," she spat. "I don't even want the stupid car. It's an old person car anyway. I'm going to get a Range Rover." "Good luck with that," I said, bending down to pick up the keys. My mother was standing in the doorway behind her. She had her arms crossed. "I hope you're happy, Aubrey," Mom said. "You've humiliated your sister and caused a huge fight over a car. I thought I raised you better." I looked at the keys in my hand. The BMW logo was scratched, but they were mine. "You didn't raise me to be a bank," I said. "You raised me to be a daughter. Somewhere along the way, you forgot the difference." I walked past them to the car. I got in. It smelled like stale French fries and cheap perfume. The gas tank was on empty. There was a fast food wrapper on the floor. But when I started the engine, it purred. I backed out of the driveway. "Where are you going?" Mom yelled. "Dinner is in 10 minutes. "I'm going to get my car cleaned," I said. "And then I'm going to Grandpa's." I drove away. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. For the first time in months, the car felt like mine again. I spent the weekend at my grandparents' house. It was peaceful. No one asked me for money. No one asked me to clean up a mess. I slept for 12 hours straight. On Sunday morning, Grandpa told me to get dressed in something nice. "Why?" I asked. "Because I called a family meeting," he said. "They are coming here at noon. We are going to settle this once and for all." My stomach twisted. "Grandpa, they'll just gang up on me. They always do." "Not this time," he said. "This time I'm the moderator and I have the receipts." At noon, my parents and Madeline arrived. They looked annoyed. My dad looked stressed, my mom looked self-righteous, and Madeline looked bored, scrolling on her phone. We all sat in the living room. Grandpa sat in his big leather armchair. I sat next to him. My family sat on the sofa opposite us. It felt like a court hearing. "Okay, Dad," my mother said, sighing. "We're here. Can we make this quick? Madeline has a live stream at 2. "Madeline can wait," Grandpa said. His voice was like thunder. He reached under his chair and pulled out the folder with my spreadsheet. He also pulled out a stack of bank statements he had printed out for me. "I've been looking at some numbers," Grandpa said. "Aubrey showed me her accounts." "She's overreacting," Mom cut in quickly. "We've been over this. We borrow things back and forth. It's casual." "It's not casual," Grandpa said. "It's $8,742. He said the number slowly. My dad looked up, surprised. "What, that high?" "Yes," Grandpa said. "Here is the breakdown." He passed the papers to my father. My dad looked at the list. He saw the makeup, the trips, the food, the bought services. His face went pale. "We didn't realize it was that much," Dad mumbled. "Because you didn't care to look," Grandpa snapped. "You let one daughter parasite off the other because it was easier for you. You didn't want to tell Madeline no, so you let Aubrey pay the price." "I needed those things for my career," Madeline piped up. "It's an investment. I was going to pay her back." "With what?" Grandpa asked. "You have no job, you have no income. You are 22 years old and you are stealing from your sister who works in a freezing garage." "It's not stealing," Mom shouted. "It's family. Aubrey has the money. She's single, she has no expenses, she should help her sister." Grandpa stood up. The room went silent. "Family should be the last place you encounter theft," he said. "Not the first." He looked at my mother. "You have failed, Janet. You have failed to protect your daughter. You turned her into a servant." "I love both my girls," Mom cried. "You love one," Grandpa corrected her. "And you use the other." He walked over to the fireplace mantel. He picked up a thick envelope. "I was going to wait until you girls were 25 to give you this," Grandpa said. "But I think we need to do it now. This is the trust fund your grandmother and I set up for you years ago." Madeline sat up straighter. Her eyes lit up. "A trust fund? How much is it?" "It's significant," Grandpa said. "Enough to put a down payment on a house or start a business properly." He looked at Madeline, then he looked at me. "Madeline," he said. "You have spent your portion." "What?" Madeline screeched. "I haven't touched it." "You spent Aubrey's money," Grandpa said calmly. "So I am taking Aubrey's debt out of your inheritance. And I am giving the rest to Aubrey." That's not fair, Mom yelled. You can't do that, that's Madeline's money. It's my money, Grandpa said, and I can do whatever I want with it. Madeline, you owe your sister $8,000. Plus interest, plus the wear and tear on the car, so I am transferring the entirety of the fund to Aubrey. He handed the thick envelope to me. Aubrey, he said, this is seed money, get a real shop, get a heater. Get out of that garage. I held the envelope, I was in shock. You're ruining her life, Mom screamed at Grandpa. You're choosing favorites. No, Grandpa said. I'm balancing the scales. You've tipped them toward Madeline for 20 years. I'm just putting them back to even. He looked at my parents. If you want Madeline to have money, you can give her yours, but you will not take another penny from Aubrey. If you do, I will write you out of my will completely. Do you understand? My dad nodded slowly. We understand. Mom was red in the face, shaking with rage. Madeline was crying, genuine tears of a spoiled child who just lost her toy. I hate you, Madeline yelled at me. You turned Grandpa against us. You did that yourself, I said quietly. I just showed him the receipts. Grandpa walked to the door and opened it. The meeting is over, he said. Aubrey is staying here for dinner. You three can go. They left. My mother didn't look at me. Madeline flipped me off as she walked out. My dad just looked tired. When the door closed, the silence was beautiful. I looked at the envelope in my lap. It wasn't just money. It was freedom. It was a key to a door I thought was locked forever. Thank you, I whispered to Grandpa. He sat back down in his chair and picked up his book. Don't thank me, buddy, he said. Just promise me one thing. Anything. Buy a shop with a good heating system. I don't want you freezing anymore. I promise, I said, and I meant it. The week after the family meeting, I moved out. I didn't move far, just 20 minutes away to a small apartment near the downtown area, but it felt like I had moved to a different planet. The apartment was small. It had one bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room with a big window. But the most important thing about it was the silence. When I put my keys on the counter, they stayed there. When I bought a carton of milk, it was full when I went to use it. When I turned off the lights to sleep, no one banged on my door asking for a favor. But the biggest change wasn't the apartment. It was the shop. With the money Grandpa transferred to me, I didn't just buy new supplies. I rented a storefront. It was a small space on a side street, tucked between a bakery and a bookstore. It used to be a shoe repair shop. It smelled like old leather and dust when I first walked in, but to me, it smelled like potential. I signed the lease on a Tuesday. Grandpa was with me. He sat in the corner on a folding chair while I signed the papers with the landlord. It's all yours, the landlord said, handing me the keys. I held them tight. These were keys that Madeline would never touch. The next month was a blur of work, but it was my work. It wasn't work to pay off a debt or to silence a screaming sister. It was work to build something. I painted the walls a soft cream color. I installed shelves made of reclaimed wood. I bought a real kiln for my glasswork, a top-of-the-line model that didn't overheat. And just as I promised Grandpa, I installed a powerful heating system. I remember the first morning I went to work in the new shop. It was November and the air outside was crisp and cold. I unlocked the front door, flipped the sign to open, and turned on the heater. Within 5 minutes, the shop was toasty warm. I took off my heavy coat. I took off my scarf. I sat down at my painting station in just a light sweater. My hands weren't shaking from the cold. My fingers were flexible and warm. I started painting. I painted for 4 hours straight. No one interrupted me. No one asked me to run an errand. The only sounds were the hum of the heater and the soft jazz playing on my speaker. It was the most productive morning of my life. As the holiday season approached, business exploded. Because I had a physical location, people started walking in off the street. I realized I couldn't do it alone. In the past, this would have caused a panic attack. I would have just stayed up all night, ruining my health to get it done. But I wasn't that person anymore. I had resources. I put a sign in the window, help wanted. A local teenager named Leo applied. He was 17, shy and artsy. I just need someone to pack boxes and ring up customers, I told him, so I can focus on painting. I can do that, he said. Hiring Leo was a revelation. I paid him a fair wage. More than minimum wage, actually, because I knew what it felt like to be undervalued. One afternoon, we had a rush. 10 people were in the shop. Ornaments were flying off the shelves. I was painting personalized names on bulbs as fast as I could. Leo was wrapping them in tissue paper and boxing them up. Aubrey, Leo said, calm as anything. We're out of the blue boxes. Should I run to the back and get more? Yes, please, I said. He ran to the back, grabbed the stock, and was back in 30 seconds. I watched him work. He didn't complain. He didn't ask me to do it for him. He just did his job. It hit me then. This is how it's supposed to work. You respect people, you pay them, and they help you. You don't guilt them. You don't steal from them. It was so simple, yet my family had made it seem impossible. That night after we closed up, I counted the cash register. It was our biggest day ever. "Good job today, Leo," I said. "Here's your tip." I handed him an extra $50 from the cash. He looked at it, surprised. "Whoa. Thanks, Aubrey, you're a cool boss." He left, whistling. I locked the door and turned off the main lights, leaving just the display lights on the Christmas tree in the window. I sat there in the semi-darkness, surrounded by my creations. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a notification from my bank app. A deposit had cleared. My balance was higher than it had ever been. Then I saw a missed text from my mother. "Mom, we are doing Thanksgiving at 4 o'clock this year. Don't be late." I looked at the text. In the past, my heart would have raced. I would have worried about what dish to bring, what to wear, how to avoid fighting with Madeline. Now, I felt nothing. I typed back, "Aubrey, I can't make it. The shop is open late for the holiday rush. Enjoy the turkey." I put the phone away. I didn't offer an excuse. I didn't say sorry. I just stated the fact. Grandpa visited the shop often. He became a fixture there. He would drive over in his little car, since I had the BMW now, park out front, and come sit in a comfortable armchair I had bought specifically for him near the window. He wouldn't say much. He would bring a newspaper or a crossword puzzle. He would just sit there, drinking the coffee I made him, watching me work. One snowy Tuesday, the shop was quiet. "You know," Grandpa said, looking around at the shelves filled with shimmering glass. "You built this." "You gave me the money, Grandpa," I said, dipping my brush in gold paint. "I gave you the bricks," he said. "You built the house." He took a sip of his coffee. "How are they?" He meant my parents. "Quiet," I said. "Mom texts sometimes, usually guilt trips. Dad sends generic holiday emojis. Madeline blocked me on Instagram." Grandpa chuckled. "A badge of honor." "It's weird," I admitted, putting my brush down. "I thought I would feel lonely. I thought I would miss them, but I just feel relief. Is that bad?" "No," Grandpa said firmly. "Relief is the feeling of a burden being put down. You carried them for a long time, Aubrey. It's okay to just walk by yourself for a while." He looked out the window at the falling snow. "I'm proud of you," he said, "not just for the shop, but for the spine." I smiled. "Thanks, Grandpa." I drove home that night in the BMW. The heated seats were on. The radio was playing my classical music station. There were no pink steering wheel covers, no trash on the floor. I stopped at a red light and looked at the empty passenger seat. It was empty, but it didn't feel empty. It felt spacious. It felt like there was room for me to breathe. I realized that for 26 years, I had been squeezing myself into a tiny corner of my own life to make room for Madeline's ego and my mother's demands. Now, I could stretch out. I arrived at my apartment. I cooked a simple dinner, pasta and a salad, and ate it while watching a movie I wanted to watch. Not a reality show Madeline liked, not the news Dad watched. I went to bed at 10 p.m. I slept through the night. This was rebuilding. It wasn't a dramatic explosion of fireworks. It was steady. It was quiet. It was boring in the most beautiful way possible. It was the life I had earned. A year has passed since the Great Family Showdown, as Grandpa calls it. Things are different now. The dust has settled, and the new landscape of my life is permanent. My relationship with my mother and father still exists, but it has changed form. We are what therapists call low contact. I see them maybe once every 2 months. Usually, it's for a neutral event, like a cousin's wedding or a brief coffee meetup. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about the past. We talk about the weather. We talk about the neighbors. We talk about television shows. It's superficial, it's shallow, and it's safe. My mother still tries, occasionally, to slip back into the old ways. Last month, we met for lunch. She looked at my handbag, a nice leather bag I had bought for myself as a birthday gift. "That's lovely," she said, reaching out to touch it. "Madeline has been looking for something just like that for her interviews. You know, she's trying to get a job as a receptionist at a gallery." I took a sip of my iced tea. "That's nice, I hope she gets it." "She's very stressed," Mom said, giving me that look, the look that used to make me open my wallet. "She doesn't have proper clothes for a gallery environment, it's very upscale." She let the silence hang there, waiting for me to say, "Oh, she can borrow my bag," or "I'll take her shopping." I didn't say anything. I just ate my salad. "So," Mom continued, her voice getting a little tighter, I was thinking, maybe since you're not using that bag every day, I looked up. I didn't look angry, I just looked bored. No, Mom, I said. I didn't even finish the sentence, she snapped. The answer is no, I said calmly. I use this bag, it's mine. Madeline can buy her own bag from Target like everyone else starting a job. My mother pursed her lips. She looked like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She knew now that screaming didn't work, it just made me leave. Fine, she said tightly. Pass the sugar. That was the victory. It wasn't a fight, it was a boundary. And she respected it because she had no choice. As for Madeline, reality hit her hard. Without my funding, and without Grandpa's trust fund waiting for her, her influencer lifestyle collapsed. You can't post photos of luxury brunches when you can't afford the mimosa. She had to move back home with Mom and Dad. I heard through the grapevine, Grandpa, that it's not going well. Mom drives Madeline crazy, and Madeline drives Mom crazy. They are stuck in a loop of their own making. Madeline finally had to get a regular job. She works retail at the mall. I walked past her store once, about 3 months ago. I saw her folding sweaters. She looked tired. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. She was wearing the store uniform. She saw me. We locked eyes through the glass window. I didn't stop. I didn't go in to gloat. I didn't go in to save her. I just nodded my head, a simple acknowledgement that she existed, and kept walking. I felt a pang of sadness, sure, she was my sister. I wanted us to be close. I wanted us to be friends. But I realized that you can't be friends with someone who sees you as a resource instead of a person. Madeline had to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. If I had kept helping her, I would have crippled her forever. In a way, saying no was the kindest thing I ever did for her. My life is full now. The shop is thriving. I have 3 employees now, including Leo, who is now my assistant manager. We are planning to expand to online sales next year. I have friends, real friends. People who invite me to dinner and don't expect me to pay the whole bill. People who ask, "How are you?" and actually wait for the answer. And I have Grandpa. He's slower now. He doesn't drive as much. So every Sunday I drive the BMW to his house. I pick him up and we go for a drive. Last Sunday we drove out to the lake. It was a beautiful spring day. We parked the car and rolled the windows down to let the breeze in. "You happy, buddy?" he asked me. I thought about it. Was I happy? I wasn't ecstatically joyful every single second. I still had stress. I still had taxes to do. I still had bad days, but I had peace. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. My hands, which used to be chapped and cold, were smooth and strong. I looked at the dashboard of the car that was legally, fully mine. I thought about my bank account, which was secure. I thought about my quiet apartment. "I'm free, Grandpa," I said. "I think that's better than happy." He patted my hand. Freedom is the soil that happiness grows in. We sat there for a long time, just watching the water. I used to think that saying no was a negative act. I thought it meant rejecting people, hurting people, being closed off. My mother taught me that no was a bad word. But I've learned the truth. No is a protective wall, it's a gate. It keeps the bad things out so the good things can grow. Saying no to my family's greed meant saying yes to my own future. Saying no to being the victim meant saying yes to being the owner of my life. I started the car. The engine hummed to life, steady, reliable, strong. "Ready to go home?" I asked Grandpa. "Whenever you are," he said. I put the car in gear and drove us home. I drove slowly, enjoying the ride, enjoying the control, enjoying the simple, beautiful fact that the road ahead belonged entirely to me.